Well, good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a great start to your Sunday so far. It's been pretty quiet for the weekend for the most part, not a whole lot going on. However, we are seeing some green to start today, which is a very promising sign. We have breached this trend line, like we were talking about, this neckline on our inverse head and shoulders, which is a very, very big deal. We've also seen some prices that we have not seen since the early part of the week. All this is looking really good, and now we actually have a bit of news that could give us a little bit of a push as we get further into the week. And I want to talk about all that in this video with you guys. So again, if you haven't already, show your support for the channel down below. Appreciate everything you guys do, all the time you spend watching. And I have to say, it's really feeling like the market is about to take a turn in a more positive note. Now, obviously, nobody knows what's going to happen for sure, but we are noticing some consistencies with the last time the market decided to take off. First of all, let's talk about this inverse head and shoulders, because we had been discussing this. We had been talking about the possibility of breaching this neckline. We were fighting against it for a couple days. And finally, we got this last little push over the last several hours. We actually had a little quick burst of liquidations in the market. BTC kind of led the way on this. I actually just happened to notice this from another chart, but we had a very, very quick push from BTC down at about 111.7, actually all the way up to 112.7. So the $1,000 push in an hour is pretty significant move for BTC, and you guys can see this candle's looking a little euphoric right now. In terms of the hourly stochastic RSI, we're kind of up in those overbought ranges, but we'll see we'll see what this leads us to. But we are finally seeing BTC breach trend. We're finally seeing Ethereum breach trend down here as well. We talked about this big bear pennant that was forming, and we needed to make a direction or a confirmation one way or the other. This isn't a quote unquote confirmed move yet. We know how these Sundays can be a little bit misleading, but it's very promising to see this nonetheless, especially with some of the news that we're getting. Because, for example, there was actually an announcement that China's Vice Minister of Commerce says the U.S. and China have reached a consensus on key trade issues after candid and constructive talks. Discussions covered export controls, tariff suspensions, fentanyl-related measures, and more. Both sides will now begin the internal approval procedures. So, and if you guys remember, this Thursday is when Donald Trump is supposed to be meeting Xi Jinping, and it's sounding like we are closer and closer to actually having a major trade deal that comes from this. And if this does take place, that could be a huge moment for markets, stock market, crypto market. Again, we've talked very heavily about gold, and gold's been kind of putzing around waiting for its confirmation. Major trade deal probably does this, probably sends it lower, because that uncertainty that's been kind of lingering is basically fading away. That's a very promising sign. Now, I did see yesterday that there was an additional 10% in tariffs that was imposed on Canada. So maybe we're not completely out of the water yet when it comes to tariff news and tariff information hitting the markets, but you can finally start to see the light at the end of the tunnel here. Something else I did want to point to as well, not that yet. Michael Saylor said it's orange dot day, so you're going to see strategy buying more BTC. The only downside for this is that, again, when Michael Saylor buys BTC, it usually tends to send the market the opposite directions. However, what we saw actually on Monday was a green day where the market surged and we actually got a bit of a push. This could, in fact, be the moment where we decide to do this. Another thing that's pointing to this is when we look at volume across the market, it's very quiet. All right. $84 billion is a quiet weekend compared to as of late. We've dealt with some days that have been about half this in terms of volume. If we look at all the way back in the summer, when times were garbage, but this is the lowest volume day we have seen over the last 30 days. And frankly, the last time it got this quiet was all the way back on September 28th. If we remember, September 28th, we had just gone through a drop, a big correction. We're kind of putzing around down here in no man's land, and then things got lively, and it sent us actually at a rally across the crypto market. Is that what's about to happen again? Maybe not. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't always predict what's going to happen in the future. We could always take a shot in the dark. I will say this is something I've noticed very heavily. First of all, before I get to stables, let me tell you this. Open interest has remained lower. All right. We're still sitting at about 166 billion in open interest across the crypto market. It's tiptoeing. It's not surging back in. If we get another massive rally in the crypto market, I would expect that open interest is probably going to come along with it and see big injections and see big positions opened, et cetera, that we've seen before. And actually, I should look at that whale, I'm going to look at that in another video. What whales are doing in terms of open interest. That's usually been a pretty good indicator. But something I wanted to point to as well is we're continuing to see just this liquidity injection. USDC circulation increased by 600 million in the past week. So you're seeing a lot of people actively moving money into the markets, and that tends to be what you see right before you go through some pretty significant changes in the space. So that's kind of where we're at. I will say that, again, Sundays with lower volume, they tend to be, they can be misleading. Okay. Doesn't always mean that we're going to get a confirmed breakout here. We might, maybe get a little push off of this and then a retest. Sometimes that's the way it works. But sometimes, you push right out of these things and you go on some rip roaring runs. It kind of varies. I mean, this is exactly what we saw all the way back here on Sunday of last week. We actually saw some green. We saw a little bit of retracement, but then the Monday candle just filled in and we just kept running. So that's kind of where we're at. Enjoy your day. It could be still very quiet as the day progresses. Maybe we'll have a slow and steady march to the upside. That'd be kind of cool. Me personally, just gonna be watching football. Have my son's soccer game to go to. It's his last one of the year, so hopefully they win there. But I appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts below. But have a great day. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.